The figure, now known as Marneus Calgar, chapter master of the Ultramarines, was not always the legendary hero revered across the Imperium. He was born as Tacitan, a serf of the noble house of Calgar on the agri-world of Nova Thulium. Tacitan's life began in obscurity, defined by the rigid class hierarchy of his world, where noble houses ruled over serfs with strict authority. Despite his humble origins, Tacitan grew up alongside the house's young heir, Marneus, a boy who shared his ambition and thirst for something greater. Though separated by status, the two became close companions, bound by a shared dream of escaping their rigid lives and proving their worth by becoming space marines. From an early age, Tacitan and Marneus dedicated themselves to rigorous training, determined to earn their place among the Ultramarines. Together, they saw an opportunity to transcend their roles, with Tacitan aspiring to shed the stigma of his serf heritage and Marneus seeking to prove himself beyond the privileges of nobility. Their shared ambition led them to enlist as aspirants under the tutelage of Crixus, a stern and seemingly loyal Ultramarines instructor who took charge of their early training. Alongside a group of other aspirants, they honed their skills on Thulium Minor, the moon of their homeworld, enduring trials that tested their physical and mental limits. For a time, Tacitan and Marneus believed they were on the path to greatness, but their dreams were shattered by a horrifying revelation. One fateful night, the duo discovered that Crixus and the other aspirants were not the honorable warriors they had aspired to become. Instead, they were followers of chaos, twisted by the dark worship of Khorne, the blood god. The aspirants' training had been a facade, a ploy to corrupt them through blood rituals and acts of violence. Tacitan and Marneus stumbled upon one such ritual, witnessing Crixus and the others engaged in brutal sacrifices to honor their dark patron. Horrified by what they had seen, Tacitan and Marneus attempted to escape, but their betrayal had been noticed. Crixus and his followers turned on them, leading to a desperate and bloody confrontation. The aspirants turned cultists attacked with a ferocity born of their allegiance to chaos, forcing Tacitan and Marneus to fight for their lives. Despite their bravery, they were hopelessly outnumbered. In the chaos, Marneus Calgar was killed, struck down by Crixus himself. Tacitan could only watch as his closest friend, the boy who had shared his dreams of glory, fell to the murderous cultists. Grief-stricken and enraged, Tacitan vowed that Marneus Calgar's name would not be forgotten. In that moment, he made a fateful decision. He would take on Marneus's identity, ensuring that his friend's dream of becoming a space marine would live on. Calling upon every ounce of strength and determination he possessed, Tacitan fought back against the corrupted aspirants, killing many of them in a series of brutal engagements across the moon's surface. His rage and cunning allowed him to outwit and outmaneuver the bloodthirsty cultists, turning their own savagery against them. Yet, even Tacitan's willpower could not sustain him forever. In the final confrontation with Crixus, Tacitan found himself at the brink of death. Exhausted and wounded, he was no match for the chaos-infused strength of his former instructor. Just as it seemed his end was inevitable, salvation arrived in the form of the Ultramarines. Responding to intelligence about heretical activity, the Space Marines descended upon Thulium Minor, annihilating the cultists and rescuing Tacitan from certain death. Though scarred and battered, Tacitan emerged alive, carrying with him the weight of his friend's death and the resolve to honor his memory. When questioned by the Ultramarines about the events on Thulium Minor, Tacitus introduced himself as Marneus Calgar, determined to live up to the name and legacy of his fallen friend. His conviction and resilience impressed the Ultramarines, who saw in him the qualities of a true aspirant. Despite his serf origins, Marneus Calgar was accepted into the chapter's rigorous selection process, beginning the next stage of his journey to become a space marine. On Nova Thulium, the tomb of the true Marneus Calgar stands as a somber reminder of the boy who died in pursuit of greatness. Listed with an age of death at 12, the tomb is a testament to the price paid in the shadow of chaos. Tacitus, now bearing the name Marneus Calgar, carried the memory of his friend with him into every battle, every decision, and every act of leadership. The legacy of the boy he once was, and the boy he vowed to honor, became the foundation of his rise as one of the Imperium's greatest warriors. This dark and tumultuous beginning shaped the Marneus Calgar known today, instilling in him the unbreakable resolve to face chaos head-on and the unwavering determination to protect the Imperium from the horrors that once tore his life apart. From a serf with a dream to a warrior forged in tragedy, Marneus Calgar's rise was built on sacrifice, resilience, and the promise to never let the light of humanity fade in the grim darkness of the far future. Marneus Calgar's journey through the selection trials of the Ultramarines was nothing short of harrowing, a series of grueling challenges that tested every aspect of his body, mind, and spirit. The Ultramarines are renowned as paragons of discipline and excellence among the Adeptus Astartes, and their recruitment standards reflect this lofty reputation. For Calgar and the other aspirants, these trials were not merely about survival. They were a crucible meant to forge warriors who could embody the ideals of the chapter and stand as defenders of Ultramar. The trials began with a brutal process of physical endurance designed to eliminate those who lacked the raw strength and stamina required for a space marine. Aspirants were subjected to punishing exercises that pushed their bodies to the breaking point, endless runs through hazardous terrain, grueling strength tests under extreme conditions, and relentless combat drills that offered no respite. For many, these tests alone were insurmountable. Calgar, however, not only endured but excelled. His natural physical prowess, honed by years of hard labor on Nova Thulium, gave him an edge, but it was his mental fortitude that truly set him apart. While others faltered under the strain, Calgar remained focused, drawing on his unwavering determination to succeed. Yet physical endurance was only the beginning. The trials of the Ultramarines are designed to forge warriors capable of both individual brilliance and absolute adherence to the Codex Astartes, the set of doctrines and strategies authored by Robert Guilliman himself. This next phase introduced the aspirants to rigorous tactical challenges, where raw strength alone was insufficient. Calgar and his peers were placed in simulated combat scenarios, ranging from squad-level skirmishes to full-scale battlefield engagements. The aspirants were required to demonstrate not only their ability to fight, but also their capacity to lead, strategize, and adapt under pressure. It was during these tactical trials that Calgar's leadership qualities truly began to shine. In one particularly infamous exercise, his group was tasked with capturing a heavily fortified position defended by veteran Ultramarines acting as aggressors. Outnumbered and outmatched, many aspirants relied on brute force or individual heroics, only to fail spectacularly. Calgar, however, approached the challenge with a methodical and disciplined mindset. Studying the terrain and the enemy's movements, he devised a plan that exploited the environment to neutralize the defender's advantages. By coordinating his team's efforts and maintaining cohesion, he achieved a decisive victory, one that earned him the respect of his peers and the attention of the Ultramarines overseeing the trials. Beyond the battlefield, the trials demanded immense personal sacrifices from every aspirant. The path to becoming a Space Marine is one of transformation, and for Calgar, this meant leaving behind everything he had once known. Friendships forged during the trials were often fleeting, as failure or injury could claim even the most promising candidates. Calgar witnessed this firsthand during the final combat evaluations, where one of his closest comrades fell in battle. Despite the loss, Calgar pressed forward, understanding that the path he had chosen required absolute dedication to the greater good. This unyielding resolve became a cornerstone of his character, one that would define him for the rest of his life. The transformation into an Ultramarine culminated with the genetic and surgical modifications that turned aspirants into transhuman warriors. This process, known as the implantation of the Space Marine gene seed, was as dangerous as it was transformative. Many did not survive the procedures, their bodies rejecting the gene seed or succumbing to the grueling regimen that accompanied it. Calgar endured this phase with the same tenacity that had carried him through every other trial, emerging stronger, faster, and more resilient than ever before. Yet, the physical changes were only part of the transformation. The indoctrination into the values and doctrines of the Codex Astartes was equally critical, shaping Calgar's mind and spirit into the mold of a true Ultramarine. Through these trials, Calgar developed an unshakable commitment to the Codex Astartes. He came to understand that the Codex was more than a set of rules. It was a philosophy, a guide to achieving order and excellence in the face of chaos. For Calgar, adherence to the Codex was not a matter of blind obedience, but a testament to the enduring wisdom of Robert Guilliman and the values that had allowed the Ultramarines to endure for millennia. This dedication to the Codex would later become a defining feature of his leadership, influencing every decision he made as a warrior and as chapter master. By the end of the selection process, Marneus Calgar had proven himself time and again. The trials, though brutal and unforgiving, had forged him into a warrior of unparalleled resolve and discipline. Every battle, every sacrifice, and every lesson learned had shaped him into the ideal Ultramarine, a soldier who would embody the chapter's values and stand as a testament to its greatness. His journey was far from over, but the foundation had been laid for a legacy that would one day echo across the galaxy. Marneus Calgar's ascension to chapter master of the Ultramarines was not a simple matter of inheritance or nomination. It was a journey defined by his relentless dedication, proven leadership, and unyielding commitment to the values of his chapter and the Codex Astartes. The Ultramarines, as one of the most prominent and revered Space Marine chapters, demand excellence from their leaders, and Calgar's rise was shaped by the critical challenges he faced and the qualities he demonstrated in overcoming them. His journey to becoming chapter master came during a tumultuous period in Ultramar's history, marked by internal and external threats that tested the resolve of even the most stalwart warriors. Before his ascension, Calgar had already earned a reputation as an exceptional leader within the Ultramarines. His performance as a captain was marked by a series of decisive victories, where his adherence to the Codex Astartes allowed him to outmaneuver and overpower enemies that far outnumbered his forces. One of the most significant events leading to his promotion was his role in the defense of Espandor, one of Ultramar's key worlds. The system had come under siege by a wa of orcs led by the warlord Gorkraka. The Greenskins' overwhelming numbers and brutal tactics threatened to overwhelm the defenders, but Calgar, serving as the commanding officer of the Second Company, implemented a series of calculated countermeasures that turned the tide. By exploiting the orcs' lack of discipline and engineering a series of precise ambushes, Calgar managed to scatter the wa and personally led the strike force that decapitated the orc leadership, ending the threat to Espandor. Such victories cemented Calgar's reputation as a master tactician, but his rise was not without challenges. The period leading to his promotion was one of upheaval within Ultramar. The chapter had suffered severe losses in a series of brutal campaigns, including skirmishes with chaos warbands and tyrannid incursions that had strained its resources and morale. During this time, the previous chapter master, Ortan Cassius, was mortally wounded in battle, leaving a void in leadership at a time when stability was desperately needed. The process of selecting a new chapter master within the Ultramarines is rigorous, requiring not only martial prowess, but also the respect of one's peers and the approval of the chapter council. Calgar's name emerged as the most prominent candidate, not simply because of his battlefield accomplishments, but because of his embodiment of the Ultramarine ideal. Calgar's promotion to chapter master was not merely a ceremonial affair. He faced a series of grueling evaluations, including simulated combat scenarios and strategic deliberations designed to test his decision-making under extreme pressure. These trials were meant to ensure that the next chapter master could uphold the legacy of Robut Guilliman and maintain the Ultramarines' position as a bastion of stability within the Imperium. Calgar excelled in every aspect of these tests, demonstrating not only his tactical acumen, but also his capacity to inspire and lead others. His unwavering adherence to the Codex Astartes and his ability to adapt its principles to the realities of modern warfare made him a natural choice for the role. Once elevated to the rank of chapter master, Calgar assumed responsibilities that extended far beyond the battlefield. As the leader of the Ultramarines, he became the de facto ruler of Ultramar, a realm comprising several systems and over 500 worlds. Ultramar, with its structured governance and relatively stable economy, has long been regarded as a model for the wider Imperium. Calgar's role as both a military leader and a political figurehead required him to balance the needs of his people with the demands of the Adeptus Astartes. He worked closely with planetary governors, ensuring that Ultramar continued to thrive while maintaining its capacity to support the chapter's endless wars against humanity's enemies. Calgar's leadership was tested almost immediately after his promotion. Ultramar faced a renewed invasion by the Tyranids, and Calgar found himself leading the defense against Hive Fleet Behemoth, one of the most devastating threats the chapter had ever encountered. The battles against the Tyranids were some of the most brutal and harrowing in the Ultramarines' history, with entire worlds consumed by the Xeno swarms. Calgar's leadership during these engagements was nothing short of exemplary. On Macragge, the Ultramarines' homeworld, Calgar personally commanded the defense of the polar fortresses, leading his warriors in a desperate last stand against the Tyranid hordes. Despite overwhelming odds, he held the line, ensuring that the Ultramarines' legacy endured. His tactical genius and unyielding resolve during these battles solidified his reputation as one of the Imperium's greatest leaders. As chapter master, Calgar also took on the immense burden of being a symbol of Ultramarine values. His every action was scrutinized, not only by his own chapter, but by the wider Imperium, which often looks to the Ultramarines for inspiration. Calgar carried this weight with grace, using his position to reinforce the importance of discipline, unity, and adherence to the Codex Astartes. Under his leadership, the Ultramarines became not just a military force, but a guiding light for the other chapters of the Adeptus Astartes. His ability to maintain this balance between the martial and symbolic aspects of his role is a testament to his strength of character and his unwavering dedication to the ideals of the chapter. Marneus Calgar's rise to chapter master marked the beginning of a new era for the Ultramarines. Through his leadership, he not only upheld the legacy of Robout Guilliman, but also cemented his own place in the annals of the chapter's history. In a galaxy consumed by chaos and war, Calgar stood as a beacon of hope and resilience, proving that even in the darkest times, the values of the Ultramarines could endure. His journey to becoming chapter master was a testament to his unwavering resolve, his capacity for sacrifice, and his ability to inspire those around him to achieve greatness. The Battle of Macragge and the wider Tyrannic Wars marked one of the most defining and harrowing periods of Marneus Calgar's tenure as chapter master of the Ultramarines. The arrival of Hive Fleet Behemoth, the first Tyranid incursion encountered by the Imperium, posed an existential threat to Ultramar and the Imperium at large. The Tyranids were unlike any enemy humanity had faced before, a Xeno swarm of unprecedented scale and adaptability, bent on consuming entire worlds to fuel their relentless hunger. For the Ultramarines, defending their home and their honor fell squarely on the shoulders of their chapter master, Marneus Calgar, whose leadership and resolve would be tested as never before. Hive Fleet Behemoth's invasion of Ultramar began with a ferocity that caught even the seasoned warriors of the Ultramarines off guard. The Tyranids advanced with terrifying speed, overwhelming the outlying worlds of the realm. Entire populations were eradicated, their biomass stripped by the ravenous swarms, leaving barren husks where thriving planets once stood. Calgar, recognizing the scale of the threat, acted swiftly to marshal the full strength of the Ultramarines and their allied forces. Drawing upon his mastery of the Codex Astartes, Calgar devised a defense strategy that emphasized coordination, precision, and the ability to adapt to an enemy that could evolve in real time. The campaign culminated in the Battle of Macragge, where the Tyranids launched an all-out assault on the Ultramarines' home world. Understanding the stakes, Calgar personally took command of the defense, ensuring that every aspect of the planet's formidable fortifications was utilized to its fullest. He divided his forces strategically, assigning key elements of the chapter to vital defensive positions, while leading the central command from the polar fortresses, the most heavily fortified regions of Macragge. These fortresses, surrounded by treacherous ice fields and equipped with advanced weaponry, became the focal points of the planet's defense. The Tyranids attacked with overwhelming numbers, their swarms flooding the ice fields and battering the fortress walls with wave after wave of bioengineered monstrosities. The Ultramarines fought valiantly, their bolters roaring as they cut down endless tides of Tyranid creatures. Calgar's tactical brilliance shone through as he orchestrated a series of counterattacks designed to exploit the Tyranids' weaknesses, directing heavy firepower to critical nodes in the swarm and deploying strike teams to eliminate key synapse creatures that coordinated the Tyranid horde. Each decision was calculated, each move executed with precision, as Calgar sought to counter the Tyranids' relentless advance. Despite their heroism, the battle took a devastating toll on the Ultramarines. The Tyranids' sheer numbers and adaptability tested even the hardened warriors of Macragge. The defenders of the southern polar fortress were eventually overwhelmed, their position overrun by the Xenos swarm. Calgar, leading the defense at the northern polar fortress, was forced to make agonizing decisions, sacrificing key positions to preserve the core of the defense. His command decisions were not without a personal risk. At one point, Calgar himself engaged a Carnifex brood in brutal close combat, demonstrating not only his strategic acumen, but also his unyielding personal courage. Though gravely injured, he refused to abandon his post, rallying his warriors to hold the line against the encroaching swarm. The tide of the battle shifted with the intervention of the Imperial Navy, whose arrival in orbit allowed for a coordinated orbital bombardment against the main Tyranid fleet. Calgar had played a pivotal role in coordinating this effort, ensuring that the fleet's strikes targeted the Tyranid hive ships that served as the nerve centers of the invasion. The destruction of these hive ships disrupted the cohesion of the swarm, turning the once coordinated Tyranid assault into a disorganized and vulnerable horde. With the enemy weakened, the Ultramarines launched a final counter-offensive, driving the remaining Tyranids from Macragge's surface and securing a hard-fought victory. The cost of this victory, however, was staggering. Thousands of Ultramarines, serfs, and Imperial soldiers had perished in the defense of Macragge, and the southern polar fortress was reduced to ruins, its defenders annihilated to the last man. The battle had pushed the Ultramarines to their limits, exposing the chapter to losses that would take centuries to fully recover from. For Calgar, the toll was both physical and emotional. The wounds he sustained in combat left lasting scars, but the loss of so many of his brothers weighed even more heavily on him. As chapter master, he bore the responsibility for every decision, every sacrifice, and every life lost in the defense of Ultramar. The Battle of Macragge also left an indelible mark on the chapter's psyche. The Ultramarines, long regarded as paragons of discipline and order, were forced to confront an enemy that defied conventional tactics and logic. The Tyranids were a force of nature, a relentless and unfeeling predator that sought nothing less than total annihilation. This encounter reshaped the chapter's approach to warfare, emphasizing the need for adaptability and innovation while reaffirming the importance of the Codex Astartes as a guiding framework for survival in an ever-changing galaxy. The victory at Macragge was a turning point in the Imperium's understanding of the Tyranid threat. It demonstrated that the swarms could be defeated, but only at great cost and with immense effort. Calgar's leadership during this campaign cemented his legacy as one of the greatest chapter masters in the history of the Ultramarines. His ability to inspire his warriors, adapt to an unprecedented foe, and make the hard choices necessary for victory ensured that Ultramar endured as a beacon of hope in a galaxy consumed by darkness. The Tyrannic Wars did not end with the Battle of Macragge, and Hive Fleet Behemoth was but the first of many Tyranid incursions. Yet, the lessons learned during this campaign and the resilience demonstrated by Marneus Calgar and his chapter would serve as a foundation for the Imperium's ongoing struggle against the Tyranid menace. For Calgar, the battle was a defining moment, not just as a warrior or a leader, but as a symbol of humanity's determination to endure, no matter the odds. The sacrifices made at Macragge ensured that the light of the Imperium would continue to burn, a testament to the strength and resolve of the Ultramarines and their indomitable chapter master. With the Battle of Macragge behind him, Marneus Calgar faced a galaxy that was no less hostile or uncertain. The Tyranid threat was far from eradicated, and the Imperium was still beset on all sides by Xenos invaders, heretics, and the ever-looming shadow of chaos. As chapter master of the Ultramarines, Calgar's leadership continued to define the course of Ultramar's defense and its contribution to the greater Imperium. Yet, even with his tactical brilliance and unyielding resolve, the challenges he faced seemed insurmountable. It was during this dark and tumultuous era that a miracle occurred: the resurrection of Robut Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines and one of the Emperor's greatest sons. The return of Robut Guilliman was nothing short of a paradigm shift for the Imperium. Encased in stasis for over 10,000 years after being mortally wounded by Fulgrim during the Horus Heresy, Guilliman's return was made possible through the intervention of Belisarius Cawl, the Archmagos Dominus of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Using ancient and experimental technology, coupled with the power of the Eldar's Inead, Cawl restored Guilliman to life, granting the Imperium a living Primarch in its darkest hour. For the Ultramarines, and particularly for Marneus Calgar, the return of their genetic father and spiritual leader was both a moment of immense hope and a profound test of their loyalty and adaptability. Calgar's reaction to Guilliman's return was one of humility and deference, but it was also tempered by his pragmatic understanding of the state of the galaxy. As chapter master, Calgar had long borne the responsibility of leading the Ultramarines and maintaining the traditions of the Codex Astartes. The return of Guilliman meant not only the reassertion of the Primarch's authority, but also a re-evaluation of the chapter's role within the Imperium. Calgar welcomed Guilliman with open arms, recognizing that the Primarch's strategic genius and unmatched leadership were exactly what the Imperium needed to survive. At the same time, he understood that this new era required him to evolve, both as a leader and as a warrior. Guilliman, for his part, saw in Calgar a steadfast and capable leader who had preserved the Ultramarines' legacy in his absence. The relationship between Guilliman and Calgar was one of mutual respect and trust. Guilliman recognized the immense sacrifices and burdens Calgar had endured and valued his perspective as a leader who had faced the galaxy's modern threats. Rather than diminishing Calgar's role, Guilliman worked to integrate him into his broader vision for the Imperium. Calgar became one of Guilliman's most trusted lieutenants, serving not only as chapter master of the Ultramarines, but also as a key advisor in the newly formed Indomitus Crusade, Guilliman's ambitious campaign to reclaim and stabilize the Imperium in the wake of the Great Rift's emergence. One of the most significant developments in this new era was Calgar's decision to undergo the transformation into a Primaris Space Marine. The Primaris Marines, a creation of Belisarius Cawl, represented the next evolution of the Adeptus Astartes, boasting enhanced physical capabilities and new gene seed augmentations. While many chapters initially viewed the Primaris technology with skepticism, Guilliman's endorsement of the program made it clear that this was the future of the Space Marines. For Calgar, the decision to accept the transformation was not taken lightly. He understood the risks involved, both to his own life and to his standing as a symbol of Ultramarine tradition. However, he also recognized that the galaxy's new challenges demanded new strengths. The transformation process was perilous, even for someone as formidable as Marneus Calgar. The procedures required to elevate an existing Space Marine to Primaris status were fraught with risks, and there was no guarantee of success. Yet, Calgar emerged from the process stronger than ever, his already superhuman physique enhanced to unprecedented levels. The transformation not only ensured that he could continue to lead from the front, but also symbolized the Ultramarines' commitment to adapting and evolving in the face of adversity. Calgar's acceptance of the Primaris process sent a powerful message to his chapter and the wider Imperium. Tradition must never be a barrier to progress when the survival of humanity is at stake. With Guilliman's return and the integration of the Primaris Marines into the Ultramarines' ranks, Ultramar entered a new era of strength and resilience. Calgar's leadership, now enhanced by his transformation, became a cornerstone of Guilliman's efforts to stabilize the Imperium. Together, Guilliman and Calgar worked to fortify Ultramar's defenses, rebuild its infrastructure, and expand its influence as a model realm within the Imperium. Calgar's unwavering adherence to the Codex Astartes complemented Guilliman's broader strategic vision, creating a synergy that strengthened both the Ultramarines and the Imperium as a whole. Despite the monumental changes brought about by Guilliman's return, Calgar never lost sight of his role as a leader and protector of his chapter. His relationship with Guilliman was not without its challenges, as the Primarch's views on the Imperium's current state often clashed with the traditions that Calgar had worked so hard to uphold. Yet, these differences only deepened their mutual respect, as both men understood the necessity of balancing innovation with the preservation of core values. For Calgar, serving alongside Guilliman was both an honor and a responsibility, a chance to contribute to the Imperium's survival on a scale far beyond what he had ever imagined. The return of Robuta Guilliman and Calgar's transformation into a Primaris Space Marine marked a new chapter in the Ultramarines' history. It was a time of renewal and adaptation, where the old ways met the challenges of the new. For Marneus Calgar, it was an opportunity to reaffirm his commitment to the ideals that had guided him throughout his life, while also embracing the changes needed to secure the future. As the galaxy plunged ever deeper into chaos, the partnership between Guilliman and Calgar became a beacon of hope for the Imperium, proving that even in its darkest hour, humanity's defenders could rise to meet the challenge. As the Imperium adjusted to the monumental changes brought about by Robert Guilliman's return and the rise of the Primaris Marines, Marneus Calgar continued to shoulder the immense burdens of leadership. While his transformation into a Primaris Space Marine had enhanced his physical capabilities and reinforced his position as chapter master of the Ultramarines, it did nothing to lessen the weight of responsibility he carried. Leadership, for Calgar, was not just about commanding armies or making tactical decisions. It was about the lives of the warriors under his charge, the legacy of those who came before him, and the sacrifices that had allowed the Ultramarines to endure through millennia of unrelenting war. These personal trials, often unseen by those around him, were a constant part of Calgar's journey, shaping the man behind the legendary figure. Calgar had long been shaped by loss, beginning with the death of Tacitan, his mentor and friend, who had given his life to save him during his early trials as an aspirant. Tacitan's sacrifice had not only allowed Calgar to survive, but also instilled in him a profound sense of duty to honor those who had fallen for the greater good. Over the years, Calgar had carried this lesson with him, using it as a source of strength and resolve during the darkest moments of his life. Yet, the weight of Tacitan's death never truly left him. In moments of reflection, Calgar often found himself questioning whether he had done enough to live up to the legacy of the man whose name he now bore. These quiet, introspective moments served as a reminder that even a chapter master, with all his power and authority, was still a man shaped by the sacrifices of others. The losses Calgar endured did not end with Tacitan. As chapter master, he had led the Ultramarines through some of the most devastating conflicts in their history, including the Tyrannic Wars and the defense of Ultramar against countless enemies. Each campaign came at a cost, not just in resources and territory, but in the lives of his warriors. Calgar understood that every Ultramarine was a priceless asset, a product of rigorous training, genetic enhancement, and unyielding dedication. To lose even one was a blow, not just to the chapter, but to Calgar personally. These losses weighed heavily on him, particularly in battles where difficult decisions had to be made. Decisions that sometimes meant sacrificing one group to save another, or abandoning a position to secure a greater victory. One of the most haunting examples of this came during the Battle of Macragge, where the defenders of the southern polar fortress were completely overrun by the Tyrannid swarm. Calgar, commanding the northern fortress, had no choice but to prioritize the larger strategic picture, knowing that reinforcing the southern fortress would have jeopardized the entire planet's defense. While his decision was the correct one tactically, the loss of those warriors who fought to the last man left a deep scar on Calgar's soul. Their courage and sacrifice were etched into his memory, and he carried the burden of their deaths as a personal responsibility, vowing never to let such sacrifices be in vain. Calgar's introspection extended beyond battlefield losses. As chapter master, he often found himself questioning the nature of leadership and the balance between duty and humanity. While the Codex Astartes provided a framework for strategy and governance, it did not address the emotional toll of command. Calgar's relationship with his brothers in the chapter was one of mutual respect, but there was always a distance, a separation imposed by his rank and the expectations of his role. He could not afford to show weakness or doubt, even when these feelings threatened to overwhelm him. To the Ultramarines, Calgar was a symbol of strength and stability, and he knew that any display of vulnerability could undermine the unity and morale of the chapter. Yet, in private moments, Calgar allowed himself to confront these struggles. He would often retreat to the chapter's memorial halls, where the names of the fallen were inscribed on vast, cold slabs of stone. Here, in the quiet solitude of the memorials, Calgar reflected on the sacrifices of those who had given their lives for the Imperium and Ultramar. These moments of reflection were not acts of despair, but of renewal. By remembering the dead, Calgar found the strength to continue, drawing inspiration from their courage and commitment. For him, the lives of the fallen were a reminder of the importance of his role and the need to uphold the values they had fought to protect. Calgar's personal trials also revealed his humanity in ways that made him a more effective leader. While he was a warrior of immense power and capability, he never lost sight of the people he served. His ability to empathize with the struggles and sacrifices of others endeared him to his warriors and the citizens of Ultramar alike. Unlike some chapter masters who viewed themselves as aloof paragons, Calgar understood that leadership required connection and understanding. He took the time to listen to his brothers, to offer guidance and support, and to recognize their efforts. This approach not only strengthened the bonds within the chapter, but also reinforced the loyalty and trust of those under his command. Despite the immense burdens he carried, Calgar remained steadfast in his duty. His resolve was unshakable, driven by the memories of those who had sacrificed everything to ensure the survival of the Imperium. For Calgar, these sacrifices were not just a source of pain, but a source of purpose. They reminded him of the importance of his mission and the necessity of enduring, no matter the cost. In a galaxy consumed by chaos and darkness, Calgar's personal trials were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of hope. Through loss and hardship, he continued to lead, embodying the ideals of the Ultramarines and proving that even the greatest warriors are shaped by the sacrifices of those who came before them. The sacrifices and trials that shaped Marneus Calgar throughout his life also forged a legacy that stands as one of the most enduring within the Imperium of man. As a leader, warrior, and symbol of hope, Calgar's name is etched into the annals of history alongside the greatest champions of humanity. From his earliest days as an aspirant on Nova Thulium to his rise as chapter master and his service alongside Rabut Gilliman, Calgar has exemplified the values of the Ultramarines and the ideals of the Codex Astartes. His story is not just one of personal triumph, but of unwavering dedication to a cause greater than himself, a cause that has preserved humanity in the face of countless existential threats. As chapter master of the Ultramarines, Calgar's influence extended far beyond his own chapter. Under his leadership, the Ultramarines became not only a bastion of strength, but also a guiding light for other chapters of the Adeptus Astartes. His strict adherence to the Codex Astartes ensured that the Ultramarines maintained their reputation as paragons of discipline and order. Yet Calgar was never bound by dogma. He understood the Codex not as a rigid set of rules, but as a living document, a tool to be adapted when necessary to meet the ever-changing demands of the galaxy. This balance of tradition and pragmatism allowed the Ultramarines to thrive under his command, even in the face of unprecedented challenges like the tyrannic wars and the emergence of the Great Rift. Calgar's legacy is perhaps most evident in Ultramar itself, the vast realm of over 500 worlds that serves as the Ultramarines' domain. Under his stewardship, Ultramar has flourished, remaining a rare beacon of stability and prosperity in a galaxy consumed by chaos. Calgar's leadership ensured that Ultramar's defenses were fortified against external threats, while its people thrived under a system of governance inspired by Robert Guilliman's vision. By balancing his responsibilities as a warrior and a statesman, Calgar strengthened Ultramar's position as a model for the wider Imperium, a realm where order, duty, and honor prevail, even amidst the horrors of the 41st millennium. Calgar's service alongside Robuta Guilliman during the Indemitis Crusade further cemented his legacy as a key figure in the Imperium's survival. While Guilliman's return brought hope and strategic direction to humanity's defenders, it was leaders like Calgar who ensured that these plans could be executed. Calgar's willingness to embrace the Primaris transformation demonstrated his adaptability and commitment to the Imperium's future, reinforcing his role as both a symbol of tradition and an agent of progress. His partnership with Guilliman highlighted his capacity to operate at the highest levels of leadership while remaining grounded in the values that had guided him throughout his life. Yet, Calgar's legacy is not defined solely by his victories or his adherence to the Codex Astartes. It is also shaped by the personal sacrifices he has made and the burdens he has carried. The loss of countless brothers, the weight of leadership, and the constant demands of his role have tested Calgar in ways few could endure. Through it all, he has remained steadfast, driven by a sense of duty that transcends personal ambition or glory. His ability to persevere in the face of overwhelming odds has inspired not only the Ultramarines, but also countless others across the Imperium who look to him as a symbol of humanity's resilience and determination. Calgar's influence extends to the spiritual and symbolic realm as well. In a galaxy where despair and fear often prevail, he represents the ideals of hope, order, and unity for the citizens of Ultramar and the countless imperial worlds that have benefited from his leadership. Calgar is not just a warrior, but a protector, a guardian who stands as a bulwark against the encroaching darkness. His deeds remind humanity that even in the grim darkness of the far future, there are those who will fight tirelessly to defend the light. As the 41st millennium grinds on, Calgar's legacy continues to evolve. The challenges facing the Imperium grow ever more dire, from the endless tide of Xenos invaders to the insidious corruption of chaos. Yet, through it all, Calgar remains a constant, a leader who embodies the values of the Imperium and the ideals of the Ultramarines. His story is a testament to the power of perseverance, the importance of honor, and the enduring strength of humanity in the face of annihilation. In the end, the legacy of Marneus Calgar is one of hope. It is a reminder that even in the darkest times, there are those who will rise to meet the challenge, who will endure unimaginable trials to preserve the future of humanity. Calgar's name will be spoken in reverence for millennia to come, not just as a chapter master of the Ultramarines, but as a beacon of what humanity can achieve when guided by courage, discipline, and an unyielding commitment to the greater good. His legacy, like the chapter he leads, is timeless, a shining example of the Imperium's indomitable spirit.